Hi, friends. Welcome again to another episode of Beyond the Clouds, Edge to Edge Transformation. This transformation is going literally worldwide in different dimensions, whether it's hardware, software, internet, AI, and it's affecting practically every area of life. Shankar, we've known each other literally from undergrad days. How have you become the Shankar Iyer that the world knows today?
Certainly, I've been privileged and blessed to be part of a fabulous technology transformation. Every few years only seems to accelerate. We both grew up in undergrad at IIT Bombay, got that fabulous grounding and came to the Bay Area. You get caught up in different parts of the technology industry. In the last 30 years that we've both been here, it's just gone from leaps and bounds. When I first came to the Bay Area, it was the beginning of the software revolution, transforming from semiconductors, various stages of software impacting different facets of life to now where it's intertwined in the fabric of life, both from a consumer standpoint as well as a business standpoint. The other thing I've been blessed is that my entire work career has been in Silicon Valley. I was employee number 5 at a computer graphics software company. Ended up running that engineering team, stayed there 4 years, then went on to Adobe, switched to product management. Adobe Illustrator was my first product management exercise and built that product to a $100 million business. I switched gears and went to enterprise software. And I joined this company, TIBCO Software, started by Vivek Ranadive. When I started, the company was about 15 million. We went through an IPO back in 99. I was the first VP of products for the company. It was a great ride for about 5 years. Interestingly, I took some time off and spent some time with the venture industry, incubating a few ideas. And through that, got sucked into one of my ideas. I was helping a small company called Gemstone that eventually got bought by VMware. Then I went to WebEx. So I was part of the team that sold the company to Cisco, stayed there a bit, spent a couple of years at Citrix, and actually I've been at VMware, which is my longest stint, for just about 10 years now. VMware is part of Broadcom, and I run the end-user computing division, which is one of the multi-billion-dollar divisions of VMware. I've been in this GM role for a while, so it's been a fun ride for me. Get to work with all aspects of the business, from selling and positioning and marketing and messaging and communicating, business development, building alliances, building product, and running engineering teams.
That's fascinating. In fact, I use Adobe for all my video editing and graphics work. Adobe Premiere Pro is just amazing. The quality is just incredible. That was more consumer facing. And TIBCO, the interface bus company, was very much into the middleware journey. Now you are into end user computing. So how have you been able to switch from B2C kind of roles where you're actually providing software directly to consumers to the middleware?
It's actually a fun question. I do truly value my time at Adobe because of two reasons. At the end of the day, it's always good to understand the individual first, whether that individual is a classic consumer like almost every one of us, or in Adobe's case, their audience is designers largely, and creators as they call it now. It's broader audience. Understanding that individual persona is really important from a business standpoint, marketing standpoint. The other thing I got to learn at Adobe is the elements of marketing. This was before social media, so a lot of direct mail, email marketing, and so on. That really was a good grounding on the marketing and business side in some respect. TIBCO, yeah, it was actually the information bus company. It was fun to build the earliest middleware stacks. Very interesting space, which is still popular in infrastructure software. Of course, has expanded quite a bit in different dimensions, not just the TIBCO pieces. So that, of course, teaches you a different dimension of how to sell to enterprise buyers. What do they value? What is the cycle? How do you build large-scale sales forces? The WebEx journey for me was they were one of the pioneers of SaaS, the whole SaaS model that's so much in vogue today. That was a fantastic journey. They were one of the first guys that pioneered selling WebEx through WebEx, very much in inside sales oriented, of course, some external field sellers and so on. Now at VMware, it's bringing all those elements together because with end user computing, we sell to enterprises, but the users are end users. Even though we sell to enterprises, it's a classic SaaS model, subscription revenue-based model. So it's all about ARR growth, retention, and all those metrics, customer acquisition cost, retention, all those things that are valued in this world. You just tend to pick up and learn and you piece it. And as you build your career, the more you can leverage the different dimensions you learn, the better. We're all a little spoiled having gone to where we did, is that we all need continuous intellectual fulfillment. So you can't keep doing the same thing. You got to do different dimensions. Again, being privileged to be able to do that.
Now that VMware is a part of Broadcom, hopefully that'll create more stimulus, more growth in different ways.
We're still figuring out. We just finished the acquisition. Currently, we are set up as a completely independent division of Broadcom. So we'll have to see. The goal is for the business to continue to become a significantly multi-billion-dollar business at a pretty high level of profitability. We have the market position, we have the products, we have a team. We're a team of over 4,000 people. It's an opportunity to see where you grow, but it's obviously a very different place than a startup. Startup's all about growth, growth, and growth, even though today even that part is being tempered. For us, it's about profitable growth. If you've heard of the rule of 40, right? The rule of 40 is growth plus margins. It's about building rule of 50 companies with tremendous growth and margin. You've got some stalwarts in the industry who do that. Palo Alto and possibly ServiceNow are both in that phase of rule of 50 where they have phenomenal growth and great margin. Those are the companies people aspire to be in this new world, and that's what we are on the track for.
And how have these emerging technologies such as AI or Gen AI changed the way you guys do the work?
For us, AI at large has always been interesting. With end user computing, you tend to operate at tremendous scale. Data is big. The more you can get data-driven insights and use that to affect the outcomes that your product provides, it's a huge benefit. So we've been leveraging AI in our technology for a while, more recently running some Gen AI models and using that evolution in AI technology for sure. Of course, Gen AI is impacting security, new ways of determining threats, and more importantly for us, the ability to aggregate these threats and remediate in the areas that we have control points around is a huge thing. So different dimensions of security are huge. Every technology trend at large impacts our space, both in terms of how we use it in terms of affecting our customer outcomes, and for us internally, how we use it to run our own company and build it as well.
Shankar, the rate at which things are changing, it can be nightmarish. You have participated in multiple things and you've been successful at it. In most cases, things have worked out really well. I know you get up early in the morning and do amazing things all the way through the evening. So what is it that gets your juices going?
In my current business, end user computing, I've been at it for 10 years. Our mission is to really empower the new world workforce. I'm sure 10 years ago, we all talked about how kids stopped typing and they were doing the pinch and zoom. When you just see that evolution, you see that the workforce of today and tomorrow as a new way of working. What we think about is what can we do from a technology standpoint that empowers them in significant ways. So today, we all have the privilege of working from anywhere, even though there's a shift to coming back to work for collaboration. Truly, what we have enabled and we will continue to enable is a workforce that can work from any device, anywhere, in as productive as a way as they would in office with multiple computer monitors and so on and so forth. For us, that creation of freedom for the user is a big thing, and that certainly is a motivating factor. Watching these demographic trends is huge. Now, coupled with that, there are two interesting things that are more critical for the enterprise and business, because that's who we serve. One is, of course, security. Just the amount of security threats are tremendous, but more importantly, it's a multi-team sport. You can rarely say, hey, I have one security solution that addresses everything. So the layer we focus on is the device apps user layer. There's a lot of interesting things that go on. This is obviously where AI comes in, but it's more about how fast can you get the data, how fast can you read it, how fast can you predict trend lines, what are things that you can do to arrest that progression of the threat, or if you discover the threat, how can you mitigate it, remediate it, etc. So that's a very interesting area of cybersecurity at large is a super interesting thing that me and a few people, we just keep up with it. We've all got to remember that technology is all about driving efficiency at the end of the day. Every new generation version of technology has got to make it more efficient for the people that run it, whether it's the administrators or IT at large, to do more with less. Not that they're going to shrink, their budgets are always under pressure. It's the ability for them to do more things because they all want to innovate. Just be able to run environments. I run into IT leaders all the time. I find them the worst possible mood is when they have an escalation and firefight. They just love things to keep working all the time. So one of our goals is, hey, how do you build that layer of resiliency where things are self-healing? This is again where AI comes in, where you can discover issues before the human discovers them. Can you fix it early in the cycle? Can you shift the whole thing left, as they say in the industry? So that's the third area of interest we focus on. So those are the three broad outcome buckets in technology that we can impact, and it's a broad area. These days, that's where my head is at.
Gen X, Gen Y loves their freedom to be able to work from anywhere, anytime. Interestingly, a lot of companies, including Apple, Broadcom, Google, are asking people to come back to the office. What's missing in these enriched environments that requires people to come back to the office?
Being a technology executive and leader, I run into this issue all the time, especially for someone who's delivering technology to empower and unleash the freedom on the workforce. We all work in different modalities. There are a lot of modalities where there are more task-oriented parts of work. There are some where there's information exchange, sharing, understanding, teaching, learning, etc. Then there's a third facet, which is collaboration and creativity. When you look at the first two, there's no reason why you couldn't be sitting on a beach and working, quite frankly. Your location doesn't matter. But when it comes to the third bucket, it's where the human comes in. Sometimes technology can never replace humans. You need that human interaction to foster creativity, to solve problems faster. Sometimes you try to solve a problem over email and you get tired and say, hey, let's just talk. It's done in 2 minutes. That facet is so important, which is why we need people to come into work. We've done enough studies. Almost every development manager in my organization has begged me to say, hey, we need to mandate people to come at least 2 to 3 times a week. It's going to be a hybrid world where at large, you want most creative roles to be together, if possible, in that 3 days a week period. The rest of the time, they can be wherever. It brings the right balance in life. If you can get that model right, you'll end up having a workforce that's more productive than COVID. It's when the pendulum swings one way or the other, it becomes a problem.
There's so much proliferation of bots and AI technology everywhere. Looks like the human AI interaction is also becoming important. In what ways can we make it possible for humans and AI bots, where we are learning from them and they are learning from us, more humanistic, more meaningful?
It has to be very contextual. We have a tendency to generalize everything. Recent trip in December, I found that with trips, you're better off planning early because otherwise you do all the wrong things. It was back in August when I was planning this. So I actually used ChatGPT. I found it very powerful. I'm actually a pretty good travel planner. So I have a good feel for where to go research, whether it's travel blogs or TripAdvisor. I found that interacting with ChatGPT, effectively an AI bot, was very valuable because it was ultra efficient. So you say, here's where I want to go, but it comes back with something. You say, no, I don't like that. I like these. So you put your constraints in natural language. It comes back with certain things. So you tweak. Within about half an hour, what we followed, and it worked out beautifully. There are a lot of such things where if the bot can be presented in context, can capture the right information from the human, can have access to the right knowledge bases, it can speed up a lot of things. One of the areas that's always been fascinating for me is medicine and health and technology. I nearly started a company in this space years ago. When you have a family and sometimes extended family, somebody runs into an issue, you just don't go to a doctor in today's medical system. Where do you go? I mean, if you have to go to your PCP, it takes a while to get an appointment. You have to go to urgent care and it's not urgent. So where do you go? We all probably just go to Healthline or WebMD or Google. This is where if you have a contextual bot that is monitored by your providers or your medical organization, is it made available to you? It can give you very focused advice in what the next step is. Often the next step is on these things is diagnostics. I know you had some experience in this healthcare space for a while. If you can teach the person to self-diagnose, get a few things understood, then you can almost prescribe the next step. And the next step could be very programmatic, which could be go get an X-ray. Because the bot has context, it can schedule the X-ray. Not something it gives you and says, okay, there is an X-ray available for you in 2 months. What? No, I need something tomorrow. So there are a lot of places where my opinion, AI can be very effective, but it has to be purpose-specific, contextual, and it has to be part of a broader workflow to solve that problem.
In fact, we did use chatbots, both Google Bard as well as ChatGPT-4, to plan our last 3 vacations from South Africa to Colombia to Paris and Greece. What I realized is that as long as we are willing to take charge, you go check yourself, it's all right. But something like healthcare, for example, there's always a danger of hallucination. For example, one president recommended Clorox or COVID. It's possible that LLMs like ChatGPT would also say, maybe you should try Clorox, which would be very dangerous. How do we go from these large language models with uncurated data? Is it possible that we are moving towards smaller language?
I don't know if it's necessarily custom models. You can take an LLM and create a purpose-specific version of it. There's a lot of foundational elements in the LLM that are still valuable. It has to be context-specific, be trained by the right data, be monitored. more importantly in the healthcare case, by a health provider. Hopefully, it's private enough that your data is not shared across the board and used for something else. If all those things are in play, it could be very, very powerful. Today, the only answer to solving a medical problem is either going and finding a doctor, which can take time and you may not find the right doctor, to Googling it or through many of these sites and arriving at the answer. I would say for most of the problems, people are doing the latter than the former. In at least the US society, people tend to go to doctors only for very specific or urgent things.
What about the fact that I, as an individual, if somebody is learning the kind of problems I go through, understands my routine, understands how I work, how I live, what kind of problems I've had, isn't it possible to create something that's specific to me with this curated information? It could give me more precision medicine or precision diagnosis, but I would like to keep it private. What kind of intelligence would be needed at the edge so that it'll be fully private and still I can use it and maybe it can help others as well?
Yeah, no, 100%. Definitely true. The first step is building this very curated model in a purpose-specific, contained way that's monitored. The second is to personalize it based on your specific situation. It could do wonders. That's the way the world is going. Privacy is going to be super important, especially with things like healthcare. So personalizing it where your data is maintained, but your model that is applied to you is very likely the same model is applied to the person, because a lot of people similar to you. And so that's a benefit of that. Let's say you just tweaked your calf or something and your calf muscle pain. You want to hear from what other people have gone through. Often we find that the best answer comes from other peers who've gone through similar issues, right? Happened to us. Or you have some toothache that's different than most people, and you go to a dentist that says, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong. The best answer you find from, you talk to people your age. That's the power of this AI models, which use a cohort to train them and put all the data. So long as you can use that part, but at the same time, your private data stays private, wonders can be accomplished. This is certainly one area, medical diagnosis and treatment, where there is a whole lot of efficiency.
True. One of the challenges as we get into this culture where you can access anytime, how do you find that work-life balance to have that diversity in what you do rather than always working?
I do a pretty good job of it, quite frankly. I've learned long back that given a choice of being super efficient and not efficient, I'd rather be efficient. The problem is when you get addicted to that. Let's say you are on a trip, you're still checking into work. Of course, it depends on your role. If you're a developer, then what you would do is you would carve out times where you would do the work and you'll cut yourself off. But let's say you're somebody like me or some other role where there's a trigger, an email or a message or whatever, or WhatsApp. If your tendency is to look at that and get deep into it and spend 2 hours, then you're a host. But if your tendency is to look at that and say, that's fine, somebody else can handle it, or it's not urgent, at least I know. Or when the urgent thing comes, you act on it and you quickly process it and get it done, then it works wonders for you. So if you can operate in that mode and leverage technology the right way, you can truly have that balance in life where in the times you're not interrupted, it's not important, or it's being handled, you go to whatever you want. It could be on vacation, you could go run an errand, take care of a medical appointment, whatever the case may be. It's in the individual to leverage, process, and work in the new world. A lot of people don't do that because they just get caught in that moment, pulled in that slipstream. They get consumed in that. In a programming-oriented analogy, you can't keep going clicking down the stack. You have to pop out very quickly.
Very true. We don't want to be clicking down the stack and end up with an undefined pointer or something like that.
Exactly.
Completely lost. Speaking of which, every profession is going through some amount of change. It's getting engineered in many ways. It's creating a lot of anxiety for the new workforce as well as people in mid-career. Do you have any words of wisdom as to how people can be ready for this changing workforce? Looks like the speed of change has gone up.
That's what it feels like, though every generation perhaps says the same thing. To me, it feels like people that are curious, at the same time somewhat patient, people that learn, process, evolve, apply those skills. So long as you're doing that and you're getting better and better in what you're doing, speed of doing it, the scope of doing it, the skill level of doing it, you're going to do very well in your career, regardless of how it progresses. It's very hard to sit here and say, hey, I just started my career as an engineer and 2 years into it and I want to be whatever. It doesn't work that way. It is a continuously iterative process. So long as you can keep that iteration going in a meaningful way and have continued to evolve in a significantly positive way, you'll end up in the right place. Maybe different for different people, but that's okay.
30 years ago, when you and I started our careers, it was a very different world. Now that you've gone through so many different things, some of it planned and probably a lot of it's unplanned. How does it feel? Is this where you thought you would be 30 years ago?
I don't know if I had any specific ambitions at the point, like probably most of us. It was always something what the next thing was. When I look back, I feel very satisfied. It's definitely been a fulfilling, enjoyable career. Who knows if they turned another way, I might have said the same thing. So all what you learn from it. And second thing is you don't want to take yourself seriously. To me, all these other attributes around it, your position, your power, your money, to me, quite frankly, it's all irrelevant. What is relevant is the person you are, who you become, how happy you are end of the day, your relationships, your perspective in life, closeness to the living truth, in my mind, is what matters at the end of the day. Everything else is irrelevant.
Wow, it's so amazing to hear that from you, Shankar. When we were in college, it was like that hyper competitiveness, wanting to do something big. And today, after all these years, we come back full circle and say, who am I really and where do I want to be? That's really amazing to hear.
It's happened to people who are 100 times more successful than us, so why not us?
Why not us? Well, this is the reason I talk to people to get these perspectives. Applications of technology for sure. Technology does change lives. We, at the end of the day, have to decide how technology can change what we do, how we do it, and how we can be human. Thank you for reminding us, Shankar, and to people out there, I'd love to hear your stories. Is technology dehumanizing you or making you more human? Which technologies do you feel attracted to? Do you feel excited about? How can you help build it or co-create it? Or would you rather be in a cave away from technology? I'd love to hear that. And Shankar, it's a joy talking to you.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.